How's everyone today? Pretty good? Good. Looks like we have a little bit of impact from the typhoon today, but not too much. My friends were hoping that it would bring some more rain to southern Taiwan, but I think it seems like most of the rain is hitting Taipei area. Maybe there's heavier rain up there. But I consider myself lucky because, or fortunate because I was in Okinawa about 2 days ago, and we were a little bit worried about, flying back to Taiwan because it looked like the typhoon might go towards Okinawa, Liuqiu, and fortunately, it was fine. But I hope that Okinawa is okay now because I was just there. But yeah, we'll see how this typhoon goes. It is weakening. They say the typhoon is weakening a bit. It's not quite as strong as it was when it hit Guangdao, Guam, but we'll see. But anyhow, typhoons are a normal part of life, and they do bring rain to us. We need that rain. But I'll tell you a funny story. I was flying back from Liuqiu on Tuesday afternoon, and I was sitting at the very last row of seats in the airplane. So I was one of the last people off the airplane. So I was walking up the aisle and to the front of the airplane, and the captain, the captain of the airplane, was standing at the front with some flight attendants saying goodbye to the passengers. So I kind of smiled, and I was walking by, and he said, "Hi, Mr. Habecker." And I was like totally shocked. I was like, looking at him like, how do you know who I am? And it turns out he's a graduate of Madison美国学校. So he was like, "Oh, I'm class of 2004 from Morrison Academy, Madison." I was like, "Oh, I didn't know you were a pilot." So yeah, it was kind of funny. It's the first time I've ever known the captain of my airplane personally. So it was kind of funny, but I was totally shocked. I was like, for the captain to say, "Hi, Mr. Habeck," I was just totally surprised. So it really caught me off guard. But yeah, anyhow, I had a good time in Okinawa. It was really lots of fun. I haven't been there in over 10 years. And when I went there this time, I was reminded again how much it is similar or reminds me of Hawaii. There's so many things there. They use Hawaii. They sell Hawaiian food. They have Hawaiian names. There's a very strong Hawaii connection in Okinawa. And it's not just the beaches and the weather and the environment. They use a lot of Hawaiian stuff. But there's also, it's interesting, in Hawaii, the two biggest industries are for the economy, the local economy. The two biggest income generators are tourism, guangguangke, and American government, which basically means 美军, American military. I think it's the same in Okinawa. It's tourism, guangguangke, and 美军, American military. So everywhere you go in Okinawa, you see these huge American bases, GD. And you can see the cars. You can always tell which cars are 美军because their license plate has a Y at the front of it. It starts with a Y. So every time you see a license plate with Y, it has a Y and then has a number, that's 美国人. So it was funny. Some parts of Okinawa, I was looking around, I just see all the cars be Y, 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 all 美军. So yeah, it was kind of interesting. So yeah. Anyhow, it was fun. I enjoyed it. If you haven't been to Okinawa, I would recommend it. It's only 1 hour and 10 minutes away from Taoyuan. So, it was mixed. It was nice, really sunny on some days, but there were a few days that were a little bit more like this, a little bit windy. But the wind was nice. It was funny because the weather was never hot. It was always pleasant. Like Hawaii. It wasn't hot. It wasn't cold. It was perfect. There was always this breeze. Some days were cloudy, but it was very funny. The last day, it was the day we left Okinawa. It was kind of cloudy. It wasn't very sunny, maybe because of the storm. I don't know. But then we arrived in Taichung, and it was 37 度. It was 37 degrees and hot. I was like, I think I preferred the Okinawa weather. It was too hot when I came back to Taichung. I mean, I like hot weather, but that was really hot. So yeah. And Okinawa was not as humid as Taiwan. The shidu, it wasn't as humid, which was nice. Okay, so I thought we would start with this article here. because it's there was some I noticed there were some interesting vocabulary words that we can look at together. So it says here, North Korean satellite crashes into sea after rocket failure. Now you know what a satellite is, right? It's interesting that on sometimes at night you can actually see satellites passing overhead. It looks like a star, but it's just moving across the sky. So why don't we say it together? Wei Xing, as satellite. Satellite. Okay. Now you know what a rocket is, right? Yeah. When you launch a satellite or something into space, you need to have a rocket. That fires. It's usually very powerful. Let's say it together. Rocket. Rocket. Now, rocket can also be a verb, a 动词. So you can say they rocketed to the moon, or the airplane rocketed off the runway. So it can also mean to move very quickly. Something's blasting off. We often use the word blast, B-L-A-S-T. So we can say the rocket blasted off, or the airplane blasted off. Blast is like an explosion, but it can also be a verb. So we can say blasted off. The rocket blasted off, or the airplane blasted off the runway, means to move very quickly. So why don't we say it together? Blasted off. Blasted off. And one more time, rocket. Rocket. Okay. So it says here, North Korea attempted to launch a spy satellite yesterday, but it crashed into the sea after a rocket failure, with the South Korean military retrieving part of the likely wreckage in a potential intelligence bonanza. Okay, so there's several words here. They attempted to launch. Of course, to launch means to take off, or to begin, to start. Why don't we say together, launch? Launch. Okay, so this was not a communication satellite or something for your GPS or something. This was a spy satellite. Okay, but it crashed in the sea after a rocket failure. So the rocket failed, with the South Korean military retrieving part of the likely wreckage. Now, first of all, the likely wreckage, if it says likely, what does that mean? Possible. Yeah, it's likely that it will rain today. Well, it is raining. Or it's likely the sun will still come out today. It's possible. So we use the word likely as another word for possible. Let's say it together, likely. Likely. Right. Okay, so it's usually like this, 形容词. Okay, but this word here, the military retrieved, or is retrieving. What does retrieve mean? Yeah, to go get something. It's very interesting. There's a kind of dog, gull, that is known as a retriever. Actually, there's one of the most popular dogs. It's called a golden retriever. How do you say it in Taiwan, in Chinese? Do you know? Yeah. So it's very, very pretty dog, very friendly dog. But the reason they're called retrievers is because they're bred to retrieve animals, right? When you go hunting, if you let's say you shoot a duck, and you shoot the duck and the duck falls down, it's hard for the person to go get the duck, right? So they train the dog to go out there and get the duck and bring it back to the hunter, so that they don't have to go themselves. And they're very good at this. They like doing this. And even if you're not a hunter, if you have this kind of dog, there's another kind of dog called a Labrador. I'm sure you're familiar with. What do you say? Yeah, it's very popular. They're also retrievers, and so dogs like that, they really love to play a game. In America, well, not in America, anywhere, we say fetch, or sometimes go fetch. Now, fetch is a very interesting word. Fetch means go get that. Okay. So when you play fetch with a dog, what do? You throw a ball and they go get the ball and they bring it back to you. You throw a stick and they go grab the stick and they bring it back to you. And some dogs, they love this game. They can play this game all day, as long as you want. And so we call that game fetch. In fact, that's often a command that you give to a dog. You say fetch and they will go get it. But you can use this word for people, right? You can say, please can you go fetch my bag? Can you go get my bag and bring it to me? So the idea of fetch means to get something and bring it back to you. You say, please fetch my purse. It's over there on the table. Okay, so it means go get it for me. I need to go fetch my purse. So why don't we say together, fetch, fetch, go fetch. Yeah, so this is not a, it's a fairly common word, but it's a word that it seems a little bit odd. You may or may not have heard of this word, but we often use it when we play with dogs that are retrievers. Okay, so the South Korean military is retrieving or getting part of the possible or likely wreckage in a potential. Okay, again, this word has the idea of possible, right? Potential. It could be. Okay, if you say someone has great potential, it means they could be something great or they could achieve many things. Okay, so often we talk about the potential profit of a company. They could make a lot of money, or the potential success of this project. This project could be successful. So this word potential is it's very useful, and it can be a 形容词 or it can be like a noun. He has potential. Okay, so why don't we say together potential? Potential. Right. Okay. So in a possible intelligence, with this intelligence, governments and militaries, they send out spies. They have spy satellites. They like to get information to help them. So we call that intelligence. This doesn't mean 聪明. This means information. Okay. Possible intelligence bonanza. Now, this is the word that jumped out to me. Do you know what bonanza means? Yeah, it means like, it'd be like a word like you could use for like treasure, if you have a bonanza, you can say he had a bonanza of profit. He has a real bonanza. We use that word usually by itself. I guess we could say of something, but let's see, I'm trying to think of a bonanza of food or something like that. But it's also, if you just say a bonanza, it just means you got a great wealth or treasure of something, a great profit. It was a lot of something. There used to be a cowboy show, 牛仔, a TV show long time ago in the 60s called Bonanza. But it's the idea of finding a treasure, something great, something that's valuable. So it's a funny word. And to be honest, I'm not sure where this word comes from, but it's a good word to know. Bonanza. Why don't we say it together? Bonanza. Bonanza. So here, of course, what kind of bonanza? It's an intelligence bonanza. Okay. Yeah. And so it's, again, the idea of getting something that's worth a lot. It's valuable. It's treasure. Okay. Okay. So let's read this paragraph together. It says, North Korea attempted to launch. Let's say those three words again. Attempted to launch a spy satellite yesterday, but it crashed into the sea after a rocket failure. With the South Korean military retrieving part of the likely wreckage. Let's say those two words, likely wreckage, in a potential intelligence bonanza. Okay, and again, intelligence bonanza. Right, okay. North Korea's rockets or satellites. Yeah, so this is a valuable information, or potentially, it's valuable. They got invaluable information. Yeah. Okay, so it says North Korea does not have a functioning satellite in space, and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has made developing a military spy satellite a top priority for his regime, despite UN resolutions banning its use of such technology. Okay, so I think the key word here is functioning satellite. I think North Korea might have launched a small satellite into space, but it's not really functional, right? It has no purpose. You can shoot something up into space and it just flies around, but it doesn't do anything, right? I think when the Soviet Union launched the first satellite in history, Sputnik, it just had a little radio transmitter that sent a signal, but it didn't do anything. It didn't look at anything. It didn't help with communications. It was just up there. Okay, so I think that's why they say a functioning satellite. Okay, it doesn't function. It doesn't have a function. It doesn't do anything. Okay, so why don't we say together functioning? Functioning. Okay, and so he's made it developing a military spy satellite a top priority. This is key. He wants to do this. Okay, let's say that word one more time. Priority. Priority. And what does regime? We've talked about this before. What does that mean? What kind of government usually? Yeah, like a non-democratic government, a non-elected government. Normally we would say a regime. So, we don't talk usually about the Taiwanese regime or the American regime. We would say the North Korean regime or the Chinese regime or the Vietnamese regime. Governments where they don't really have free, open elections, okay? But remember, as I said before, this being a French word, the G is not a G sound, it's a J sound, okay? So why don't we say together, regime. Regime. Okay, so it's a priority for his government, despite UN resolution banning the use of such technology. So the UN, according to the UN, he cannot use this kind of technology. What is a resolution? Yeah, if you say, it can be either a decision or it can be like a declaration to declare something, right? If you say, I am resolved, right? Remember we talked about New Year's resolutions, right? So if you say, I'll use, I am resolved to, whatever, to lose weight, to eat less, to save more money. I'm resolved to do that. That's a resolution. So when the United Nations has a resolution, it's kind of like to declare something, to say, we are resolved, or we say that you cannot do this. Now, of course, the United Nations doesn't really have a police force or something like that. They can't, send in the military. Usually they don't, to send in a military or something to say you cannot do this. But they say we have a resolution. We've made a declaration saying you cannot do this. Okay, so why don't we say this together? I am resolved to. Okay, resolutions. Resolutions. Okay, and as we know, there's a lot of restrictions on North Korea right now because of some of the things they've done. Okay, so let's read this together. Any questions? Any questions about anything? Okay. Okay, so let's read this. North Korea does not have a functioning satellite in space. And North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has made developing a military spy satellite Let's say those last three words again. Military spy satellite, a top priority for his regime. Regime. Despite UN resolutions banning its use of such technology. Okay, so of course ban means to prohibit, to say you cannot do something. When we say such technology, here it means this kind of technology, okay? You can say, I've been waiting for such a time like this, as this, okay? It means I've been waiting for a time like this, okay? So when we say such technology, it means like this, okay? That's what it means here. Okay. Okay, so let's go on. It says, Pyongyang had said in the buildup to the launch attempt that the satellite would be vital to monitoring the military movements of the U.S. and its allies. Okay, let's go on and read this next one too. That's a photo caption. Okay, it says here. Yeah, okay, let's just read this. So anyhow, what's a buildup? That word. Well, you can see there's two words there, right? Build up, right? So what do you think build up means? What would be another word for that? Close, but it's more like the preparation, the what happens beforehand. So you could say in the build up to the Olympics, 奥运, there was lots of work done. Okay, it means in the preparations, in what the process, the things that happen before something. It's like building up to something that's going to happen. So we call it a build up. It's a 名词. Okay, so let's say it together. Build up. Build up. So this, obviously, he said this in the build up to the launch attempt, before they attempted this launch, that the satellite would be vital. And what's another word for vital? Important, very important, not just a little bit, but very important. Vital, crucial. There's many words we can use. Critical. So why don't we say together vital? Vital. Okay, so it'd be vital to what? To monitoring, okay, following. Okay, remember monitor means to watch, to follow something. Monitoring the military movements of the U.S. and its allies. Okay, so they want to watch, see what's going on. Any questions on that? Okay, so let's read this. Of course, Pyongyang is the capital of Shoudu of North Korea, so means North Korea. So let's read this. Pyongyang had said in the build-up to the launch attempt that the satellite would be vital to monitoring the military movements of the U.S. and its allies. Okay, allies, of course, means friends. Okay, that's a photo caption. Let's go on. It says here, however, the rocket lost thrust and plunged into the sea with its satellite payload, the official Korean Central News Agency reported. It added that authorities would investigate the serious defects revealed by the launch and conduct another test as soon as possible. Okay, so what is thrust? Yeah. So, when we talk about, here it's a rocket, right? Or we talk about a 喷射机, engine, airplane, jet engine. We always say, how much power does it have? With a car, we say horsepower, right? What is that? 马力, right? But with an engine, a jet engine, we talk about thrust. How many pounds of thrust does this engine create or produce? So thrust means to push or, like, I thrust my hand in his face. Okay, it means like I kind of push my hand in his face. Or so he was thrust into the spotlight. It means almost like he was pushed into the spotlight. So, but here it's like power. Okay, so we could say the rocket lost its power. Okay, that's the idea. But whenever I think of thrust, it's either to push or force something, or it's like a rocket or jet. It's pushing lots of power behind it. Okay. Right. Yeah. Like, again, with a jet engine, we measure thrust, but in pounds. How many pounds of thrust do we have? Okay, so let's say together, thrust. Thrust. Okay, so it lost thrust and plunged. Now, we talked about the word plunge before. Plunge means to, what would be a similar word to plunge? Dive, yes. We could say it dove, what you should. It dove, D-O-V-E, into. So, when you think about plunging into something, it's like very similar to dive or dove. Dove, of course, is, that's not dove. Dove is like goods, right? But this is dove, what you should. So, anyhow, you could say it plunged or it dove into the sea. And, you can plunge into the ocean. Let's say you're at the sea and you jump off something into the water. You say, I plunged into the water, okay, into the swimming pool. Okay, so why don't we say together, plunge. Plunge. Okay, so it plunged into the sea with its satellite payload. And what's a payload? What would be a very similar, this is a funny word, but it's very common actually. It's the idea of what is a actually no, it's what you would think so with the pay sounds like money, right? But payload actually is very similar to actually if you want to look at a simple word of this, it'd be like load. So it's what you're carrying. It's almost like your cargo, okay? But this word gets used a lot with satellites and rockets in space. We say how much this rocket is carrying a large payload into space. You could use this word with airplanes, like this airplane has a very high payload or heavy payload. But it's almost always used with aircraft, with airplanes or rockets or jets. It's how much you can carry or what you're carrying, okay? I almost think like maybe, here's my guess, and I don't know this for sure. When you send a rocket up, it's carrying a lot of things, right? It's carrying people. Sometimes it might be carrying fuel, it needs fuel to power the rocket. But payload is, what's paying for this? Where's the profit coming from? What are you carrying? That's actually the most important thing. Is it some people? Is it a satellite? Is it some cargo? What is it you're carrying into space? And that's your payload. So does everybody understand that? Okay. Think of the word load. That would probably be a better, the load. But payload, again, this is a word we use a lot for jets and rockets. Why don't we say together, payload? Payload. Okay, so you say this is a very big rocket because it has to lift a very heavy payload, okay, into space. Okay, so it had its satellite payload. The official, news agency reported. Okay, and then it added that authorities would investigate the serious defects. And what's a defect? A weakness, okay, a problem, a 毛病, right? Okay, so let's say you go out and you buy you buy a TV and you turn it on and something's not working or the screen's got problems and you say there's a defect here, there's a flaw, there's a problem. Or you buy when people buy diamonds, what is it? 钻石, right? They're always looking for defects. Is there any problems with that? So a defect, if something has a problem, we say it is defective, okay? So we can say, I bought a defective watch, okay, 手表, it doesn't work, okay? And a similar word is flaw, right? We can say something is flawed, okay? It has a flaw, that's a D, sorry. So it has a defect. This is a very common word we use a lot. This is a very flawed even a person can have defects, right? If someone says, my personal defects, what are your personal defects? Well, I'm very impatient, or I have a short temper, or whatever, or I'm not good at saving money, okay? Or you can say, I have many flaws, personal flaws, okay? So this is a very good word for things and even people, okay? Why don't we say it together? Defects, defective, flaw, flawed. Okay, so it's got some problem, okay, something that's not perfect, it's not right. Okay, now I'll tell you this word has one other very different meaning. Here we say it has serious defects, okay, defects. But if I change the accent on this word and I say he wants to defect, what does that mean? Does anyone know? What? Well, it doesn't necessarily mean to betray. It means you want to leave. You want to flee, 逃跑, and go to another country. You might be going because your life is at risk. Maybe I remember in the old days in Taiwan, long time ago, you probably remember, sometimes an airplane would fly from China to Taiwan, right? And the pilot would say, I want to defect to Taiwan. I want freedom, So it's the same word. And we call that person a defector. Okay, I think it's T-O-R? T-O-R, defector, is someone who defects from their country. So they run away from their country. They flee their country because of some reason. So why don't we say that word? Let's say it the way it's written here, okay, like a flaw. defect. Let's say it one more time. One more time. Defect. Defect. And then let's say it as a person when to flee your country, to run away from your country. Defect. Defect. Okay, so the accent is on the second syllable. Okay, so same word, but different, very different meaning. Okay, so, it's funny when I see this. This is North Korea, right? If I was a scientist who did this rocket, I'd be very, very nervous, because North Korea, I know that Kim Jong-un, he's very, very hard on people who make mistakes. Of course, mistakes that make him look Diolian, right? So I'd be very nervous. Yeah. Probably because they can't leave. I don't know. Or I think the North Korean government gives lots of benefits to people that are valuable to them, like scientists or, other people. But speaking of defectors, there's lots of North Korean defectors. Many North Koreans will defect to South Korea. They run across the border, they go to China and make their way down to Thailand, or they flee in some other way. But there are many, many North Korean defectors. I hear about this all the time. It's quite interesting how they get out of North Korea. Because North Korea, I think, is probably the most closed country in the world. Okay, so let's read this together here at the top. However, the rocket lost thrust. Let's say those last two words. Lost thrust. And plunged into the sea with its satellite payload. Payload. The official Korean Central News Agency reported. Okay, that's just their news, government news agency. It added that authorities would investigate the serious defects revealed by the launch and conduct another test as soon as possible. Okay, so of course these defects were revealed, something that was shown by the launch. They can see what the problem was. And conduct, of course, means to carry out, to have another test as soon as possible. Okay, so it says here, South Korea's military said it had managed to locate and salvage a portion of the suspected debris. Okay, it released images showing a large barrel-like metal structure with thin pipes and wires at the bottom, which experts said might be a liquid fuel tank. Okay, fuel is like gas, right? Or whatever. It could be gasoline, it could be rocket fuel, but fuel is what creates power, right? You put fuel in your car or your motorcycle to make it go. Here with a rocket, they use liquid fuel, okay, to propel, to thrust the rocket into space. So here it says they managed to locate and salvage. What does salvage mean? Yeah, it's like to retrieve, kind of like to retrieve, but to get something back. So it's almost like, okay, I'll give you an example. Actually, this is a funny example. Yesterday was the last day of school for 马里顺美国学校. And next week, they're going to begin tearing down the Gaozhong buildings, the high school buildings. They're going to tear them all down and build new ones. And those buildings have been there for 50 years. When I went to school, I was there. So all my friends and I who went to high school there, we are looking around. We want to see what we can salvage from those old buildings. Maybe something that is like a souvenir, like a 纪念品, right? Seriously, my friend's like, okay, I want that thing. I want this thing. I want that, I want that. And it's funny, even people who graduated and they're in America, they sent us messages saying, can I have a piece of that wall? Can I have a piece of that brick? Can I, because it's part of their memory, right? So we are trying to salvage something from those old buildings. We're trying to get something out. So if there is a wreckage or some destruction or there's something that's sitting there and you want to take something away from it, we say to salvage something. But this word gets used in other ways too. Let's say there's something happens to you and you feel like you're 很丢脸, right? You lose face, right? And you say, let's say you had made a big mistake. I made a big mistake, 很大的一个错误. And right now I am trying to salvage my pride. Okay? You know pride, P-R-I-D-E, right? Pride. So if you 很丢脸, you're trying to get back your pride, right? Maybe you think, what can I do to salvage my pride, to get back some of my pride? Okay? Because 我很丢脸, or I had a big 错误. Okay, so we can salvage our pride, or we can salvage our dignity. You know what dignity is, right? How do you say dignity in Chinese? Yeah, our respect, our self-respect. So we can say, I'm trying to salvage my dignity or my self-respect. So this word salvage is good. It says they managed to locate and salvage a piece, a portion. A portion just means it's not the whole, but a piece of something, a portion. Okay, if you have a cake, a 蛋糕, and you say, I ate a portion of that cake, it means I ate a piece of that cake, not the whole cake. So let's say those words, portion. Okay, of the what? Of suspected. Again, this is they think, they're not absolutely sure. Suspected debris. Okay, now this word we've talked about before is not pronounced, there's no S, because it's a French word, so we say debris, okay? Like B-R-E-E. Why don't we say together, debris. Debris. Okay, I guess some people say debris or debris. I think you can say it either way. Okay, so this is the stuff that's left over from the rocket. It's that stuff. If something blows up, or let's say there's a car accident and there's all this stuff lying around, these pieces lying around, we call that debris. Or let's say there's a big typhoon that hits Taichung and there's all these tree leaves and branches and things that are lying on the ground. We say that's debris from the typhoon. Okay? Did everybody understand that? Okay, it's just like pieces of something from some sort of destruction. Okay, and then it released images, pictures, showing a large barrel-like metal structure. Now, what's a barrel? Yeah, like it doesn't have to be for shui. It could be for anything. It could be like a round. What do we call the shape of a barrel? There's a word we use. That shape is what? Actually, this is a good word. I don't think what? No, not chubby. It looks, let me see if I can draw, if I'm a good draw here. It looks like this, right? Right? That shape is called a cylinder. Okay? So if something is shaped like that, we say it is cylindrical. I think that's spelled right. Okay, so something that has this shape, we say cylindrical, and this as a 名词 is a cylinder. Anything that has this kind of, it could be long, it could be short, but it has this barrel, like we say, barrel-like shape. It's shaped like a barrel. Like a tube, a pipe is cylindrical, right? Even though a pipe is very long, it's rounded and it's yeah, you know what I mean. Okay, so let's say together, barrel, barrel-like, cylinder, cylindrical. You know, if you have a car or motorcycle, it has a certain number of cylinders, right? Like we say a 4-cylinder car or a 6-cylinder car, right? Because the car has, to make the engine go, it has these cylinders that go up and down, right, in the car. In Taiwan, most motorcycles have 1 cylinder, right? It's a small engine. But some big motorcycles have 2 cylinders or maybe even 4 cylinders, right? So a car will usually have maybe 4 or 6 or even 8. We say V8, right? A V8 cylinder, 8 cylinders. That's because it's shaped like this. It has that. So when we talk about engines, we often use this word cylinder also. Okay. Everybody understand? Any questions? Okay. So these are some good words to know. So they showed a large barrel-like metal structure with thin pipes and wires at the bottom. So there were some pipes and wires, xian, at the bottom, which experts say might be a liquid fuel tank. It's a tank to hold fuel. Okay. Often tanks are cylindrical, not always, but often. Okay. Okay. So let's read this together. South Korea's military said it had managed to locate and salvage a portion of the suspected debris. Suspected debris. Remember, no S. So let's say it one more time, debris. Okay. It released images showing a large barrel-like metal structure with thin pipes and wires at the bottom, which experts said might be a liquid fuel tank. Okay, right. So, yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward. Okay, so here it says technical experts will be able to gain tremendous insight into North Korea's proficiency with large multi-stage boosters from the recovered debris. U.S.-based analyst Ankit Panda said. Okay, and so these would be 专家, right? Experts, technical experts will be able to gain. Gain means to get, right? To get tremendous insight. Okay, now tremendous means, what would be another word for tremendous? Big, great, great, huge, large, very large. Okay. Tremendous also means, 很棒, right? If you say, wow, that's tremendous news, that's great news. Let's say that word together, tremendous. Tremendous. Okay, you can say, he helped me tremendously. It means he really helped me a lot. Okay, tremendous insight into North Korea's proficiency. What's insight? Right. So if you say, wow, he has a lot of insight into human behavior, it means he really understands how people behave. Or you can say he has great insight into this company and how this company works. It means to be able to really understand the inside of something. So insight means a deeper understanding of something. Okay, so let's say it together, insight. Insight. Okay, so they have great insight into what? North Korea's proficiency with large multi-stage boosters. Let's look at this first. Large multi-stage booster. Now, this is another rocket word, right? A booster is a rocket that is used to help push. You know the word boost, right? To boost means to push, right? To push up, right? So you can say my mood was boosted by that song. I listened to that happy song and my mood was boosted. It was lifted up. Okay, but with a rocket, many rockets have different stages, right? When the rocket goes up and the first stage drops off, it falls off, and then the next rocket goes and pushes it further up, and then maybe that rocket falls off, and then there's a final booster. So booster is it helps push something up. It boosts it, pushes up. This word gets used in another way. Recently, with last few years with 疫情, with COVID-19, right? People will get 打针 first time, and then usually people get a second, we say booster shot, or a third booster shot, or a fourth booster shot. It means it will boost your immunity, your counting, right? Your immunity. So it boosts it, it lifts it up. So we call that a booster or booster shot. Okay, so this debris will give people lots of understanding into this North Korea's proficiency with large multi-stage boosters. Okay, now here's the word I want to look at. What is proficiency? If someone is proficient, and we use the word C-I-N-T, proficient, okay? If something, you are very proficient at something, what does that mean? Very skilled, very good at something, right? So you can say he is very proficient at playing the piano. He is very proficient at playing basketball, okay? So if you're very skilled and very good at something, you are very proficient at something. We usually say proficient at or something, or we can use it as a 形容词. He is a very proficient piano player, okay, as a 形容词. But here it turns into a 名词. They have proficiency at something. He has proficiency at playing the piano or in playing piano. Okay. So does everybody understand that? Okay. So let's say the first word with a T first. Proficient. Proficient. Proficiency. Proficiency. Yeah, it's a good word. So they can understand North Korea's skill with large multi-stage boosters. Okay, so they might have great proficiency. Maybe their proficiency is not so good. I don't know. Okay, from this recovered debris. Okay, so let's read this together. Technical experts will be able to gain tremendous insight into North Korea's proficiency. Proficiency with large multi-stage boosters. Boosters from the recovered debris. US-based analyst Ankit Panda said. Okay. So it says here, the launch prompted confusion and panic in Seoul as city authorities sent an early morning emergency evacuation alert to residents and blasted air raid siren across the downtown area. Okay, I heard this was a real mess because the rocket wasn't near Seoul. It was out there in the ocean somewhere. But they decided to sound the alarm in Seoul, right? And you can imagine if it's early in the morning and the air raid siren goes off. You know what a siren is, right? Taiwan, every year they have a 演习, right? And they have the siren and everybody has to get off the road and go inside or, take shelter. And that siren. But there's another kind of siren you hear every day, and that's the ambulance siren or the fire engine siren or the police siren. You hear that sound when the ambulance is coming. So why don't we say together, siren. Siren. Okay, air raid siren. Okay, so they sent an early morning emergency evacuation alert. Now, evacuation we've talked about before, but what does it mean? Right. So if we have an evacuation of this building, it means we all have to go outside, right? Maybe there's a fire and they say, okay, please evacuate the building immediately. It means please leave the building, So evacuation alert here means leave, I don't know, leave the city? I mean, probably not. Probably means to, I don't know what it means. What do you do in an maybe go downstairs and hide in the basement? I don't know. But you can't just, of course, not everybody can evacuate the city. But there was an evacuation alert. To alert, of course, means to a warning, alert, okay, to residents. So you can imagine if you're living in Seoul and there's all these the siren going off and you get an alert on your phone, you'd be like, oh no, what's happening? Is there an attack? Is there war? What's going to happen? We say we must evacuate this place. Okay. We could say they were evacuated from the building, but if you want to say it directly, please evacuate the building. Okay, that's the way we say it. Okay, so let's say this together as a verb that's a te. To evacuate. To evacuate. Evacuation. Evacuation. Okay. Right. Okay, so there was a lot of confusion. You know what panic is, right? If you're freaking out, you're going crazy, you don't know what to do. Okay. Let's read this together then. The launch prompted confusion and panic in Seoul. Let's say it's the last part. Confusion and panic in Seoul. As city authorities sent an early morning emergency evacuation alert to residents and blasted an air raid siren across the downtown area. Okay, I forgot to mention, prompted, what would be a simple word for prompted? Sparked, caused, created, okay? To prompt something means to cause, okay? If you say the heavy rain prompted the cancellation of our class, it caused it prompted, it caused. Why don't we say it together? Prompted. Prompted. Okay, you can say his complaints prompted me to take action because he was complaining. I caused me to take action. Okay. Now here, of course, blasted does not mean like an explosion, right? It means to blast. You know, if someone has they're listening to music and they turn up the sound very loud, you can say he was blasting his music too loudly, or he was blasting his well, it's usually music, sound. So here they're blasting an air raid siren. It's making a loud sound. Okay. Okay, and so it says here, this sparked widespread consternation online before the South Korean Ministry of the Interior clarified minutes later that the alert had been incorrectly issued. Okay, now here's a good word. Well, first of all, sparked is also to cause, prompted, create, okay? Widespread means lots of people. But here's the word, consternation. What does that mean? You say there was a lot of consternation over his comments. Does anyone know what that means? Okay. So consternation means great concern. Okay? Great concern. If you say there was a lot of, let's say the president, the 总统, or somebody says something very controversial, and people are very upset and concerned, we say there was a lot of consternation over her comments or his comments. Okay? There was a lot of consternation over this air raid siren. People were very concerned. And maybe sometimes a little bit concerned and also upset. Like what's going on? Why are we doing this? What's happening? You know, it's this constant, upset, confusion, concern. Does everybody know what I mean by that? Consternation. Often, if someone says something that's very upsetting, it can create consternation. Okay, just means great concern. So let's say it together. Consternation. Consternation. Okay, so this created very wide or broad consternation online before the South Korean 内政部, the Ministry of Interior, clarified minutes later. And what does clarify mean? It means to make more what? Clear, yeah? So because another word for being clear, if you say something and it's very clear, or it's very clear, you have great understanding of it, you have clarity, right? Clarity. Clarity is a 名词. It's something you have. I have great clarity on the situation. I'm very clear about the situation. So to have clarity is to clarify something, to make clear, 很清楚, okay? To make it 清楚, okay? So why don't we say that word here, first of all, this word, clarity. Clarity. Okay, clarified. Clarified. Of course, if this is a normal verb, we just with a y, fy, clarify. Okay, so if you say, I don't understand what you mean, can you please clarify this to me? Can you explain this to me? Can you make it more clear to me? I need you to clarify this situation to me. And then if you say, well, I'm very clear, you can say, I have great clarity or more clarity about what's going on. Now I'm more clear. I have a better understanding about what's going on. So this is actually a very good word to use, clarity or clarify. Okay, so the ministry of the Neijambu clarified minutes later that the alert had been incorrectly issued. This was a 错误. It wasn't, they should not have done this. Okay. Okay, so let's read this together. This sparked widespread consternation online before the South Korean Ministry of the Interior let's say that part again. Ministry of the Interior clarified minutes later the alert had been incorrectly issued. Incorrectly issued. Right. Issue means to, faxing, to put out. So it was incorrectly issued. Okay. So here's I guess this is when they have an evacuation alert, this is what you're supposed to do. It says here, I was taking my 2 young children to a basement parking lot as advised. In shock, a 37-year-old father who asked to be identified by his surname, Yoon, told reporters. The correction left him speechless and outraged, he said. Okay, so this is a father. So he was taking his 2 young children to a basement. You know what basement is, right? 地下, many buildings in Taiwan have a basement parking lot. So he was taking his children down to the basement parking lot as advised. Okay, so I guess when in Korea, when there's an evacuation alert, it means you're supposed to go to the basement or a shelter underground. I know in Taiwan, I think you're supposed to do the same thing in an air raid. Okay, in shock, he was shocked. Okay, what's going on? This father who was identified by his Xing, Yoon, told reporters. Now he says the correction. Of course, the government said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we made a mistake." The correction left him speechless and outraged. What does outrage mean? Very angry, not just a little bit angry. If you're outraged, it means you're 非常, 生气, outraged. What does speechless mean? There's nothing you can say. When are you speechless? Maybe because you're so upset about something, you don't know what to say. If someone says I'm speechless, if they just say that, usually it means I'm completely upset. I'm angry, or I'm so upset I don't know what to say. That's what it means. So if someone does something, maybe you see someone do something, you're like, what are they doing? I'm speechless. It means I'm so upset I don't even know what to say. Does everybody understand that? Okay, I'm without words. Actually, you can say that. I'm without words. Or you can say that is beyond words. Or sometimes people also, there's another expression, people say, words escape me. Okay? If you say that, if you say, words escape me, it means I don't know what to say. This is so crazy. That's a P. A-P-E. Words escape me means, I don't know what to say. This is so crazy, or this is so terrible, or this is so bad or ridiculous, right? Words escape me. I'm without words. I'm speechless. Okay. So these are all good expressions. Okay. So why don't we say together, speechless. Speechless. Words escape me. Words about that? Okay. So let's read this together. I was taking my 2 young children to a basement parking lot as advised. as advised. In shock. A 37-year-old father who asked to be identified by his surname Yun told reporters. The correction left him speechless and outraged. He said, right, okay. Well, this is interesting. I didn't know this. I'll have to ask my friends in Okinawa. It says, Japan briefly activated its missile alerts warning system for the Okinawa region early in the day, lifting it after about 30 minutes. Okay, so activate, what does activate mean? To start, to turn on, right? If you turn something on, often it means you activate. Now, you know, we don't use this word probably for everyday things. You don't say, I activated my radio. I mean, you could say that, but it might sound a little bit strange. You would say, I activated my mobile phone. I guess you could say that, but it doesn't. It seems it's like to turn something on, but it's used in very specific ways. Like here, it's an alert system. It's warning system. It activated. It turned on. Okay. So why don't we say together, activated? Activated. Okay, so it briefly, I mean, just for a short time, it's missile. Missile, of course, is Feidan, alert warning system for the Okinawa region, the Okinawa area, early in the day, lifting it. Lifting, of course, means to end it, to stop it, to end it after about 30 minutes. Okay, so even Okinawa was affected by this. Okay, so let's read this. Japan briefly activated its missile alert warning system for the Okinawa region early in the day, lifting it after about 30 minutes. Okay. Okay. Let's just read one more paragraph and then we'll go to a different story. It says here, Seoul, Tokyo, and Washington all slammed the launch, which they said contravened a raft of UN resolutions barring Pyongyang from any tests using ballistic missile technology. So the key here, of course, is the UN doesn't say you can't use satellites, but they say you cannot use ballistic missile technology. And ballistic is a very special word. Ballistic means what? What is a ballistic missile? It means a missile that usually goes up into space. Okay, you know, in Taiwan's Kongjun in America, Kongjun, the airplanes have missiles, right? They can shoot missiles at the other airplanes, or they can shoot them at the ground, or a missile. You can shoot a missile from one side to another side. But that's different from a ballistic missile. Ballistic missile means it goes straight up into the sky, into space. It doesn't go from here to there or go there to, it goes up. So this word is very interesting. If you say, when I gave him the news, he went ballistic. This is a funny expression. He went ballistic. What does that mean? Do you know what can you get? What? Not quite excited, probably closer to what she said. If you're really, really angry, like outraged, like super angry, you say he went ballistic. It means he went like a rocket. Okay, it's like he exploded, right? If you say someone exploded when I told him, it doesn't mean they really exploded, but it means they got really angry, super angry. So if you say somebody went ballistic over that news, or because when I did that, or he failed to do it, his father went ballistic, it means he got super angry. Okay, does everybody understand that? So it's like a rocket going up into space. Okay, so it's not usually a good thing if somebody goes ballistic. It means they got really angry. So why don't we say this together? Ballistic missile. Right. Okay. So they all slammed the South Korea, Japan, U.S. slam. Of course, slam means to strongly criticize, 批评. They slam the launch, which they say contravene a raft of UN resolutions. And we talked about this, but this is a very interesting word, a raft. Now, a raft is usually like if you build a, how do you say? It's not a boat, but it's like a boat, right? You can float on the water. How do you say raft in Chinese? It's like, you know, if you want to make a raft, you take pieces of wood and you put them together, and it's usually flat, and you sit on it. It's not like a boat, but it's like just some wood that's shaped. Yeah, we call that a raft. But here it means something different. A raft of UN resolutions means a whole group or cluster or bunch of UN resolutions. It wasn't just one, it was a whole group of them. So they use the word raft here to describe that. It's like a group, a cluster, a bunch of, okay? So why don't we say together, raft, raft. Okay, so contravene, of course, here's the resolutions. It contravened those resolutions. What does to contravene mean? To break, to go against, okay? If you say he contravened the law, it means he broke the law. Now, when we say contravene, we don't normally use this word for everyday use. Like you don't say, I was speeding and I contravened the law. It's more like a treaty, an agreement, a resolution, something that's big and official, like some sort of restriction, okay? To go against, what do we say? Like sanctions, you know, like, when Russia right now, there's many sanctions against Russia because of the war in Ukraine. So there are many limits on Russia. And if you contravene those limits, let's say, for example, someone says, well, we're going to do business with Russia. Then you say, well, that is contravening this restriction or this sanction on Russia. So it's like a big agreement or something. Does everybody understand that? Okay. To go against something, to break it. So let's read that together. Contravened. Contravened. Okay, so basically the UN says you cannot use ballistic missile technology, and North Korea has now broken that resolution. They've gone against it. Okay, so let's read this together. Seoul, Tokyo, and Washington all slammed the launch, which they said contravened a raft of UN resolutions. Barring Pyongyang from any tests using ballistic missile technology. Okay, let's say those last three words again. Ballistic missile technology. Okay, yeah. So yes, North Korea is always causing trouble. I feel like recently they don't feel like maybe people are not paying attention to them, so they have to do something to get that attention. Okay, so why don't we go to a business story? I saw this. I thought this was kind of interesting. Everybody knows Amazon, right? You guys all know Amazon? Okay. Do Taiwanese use Amazon much or not? Does everybody know what Amazon is? Yeah. In America, Amazon is super popular, right? If you want anything, you go to Amazon, right? You want to buy, in Taiwan, they have online shopping too, like Shopee, and what are some of the other ones that people go? Yeah, Momo, yeah, and there's many. But Amazon in America is like the number one. Everybody goes to Amazon. You want to buy a book, you want to buy clothing, you want to buy technology, you go to Amazon, and they have everything, and they deliver very quickly too. So Amazon's huge. But I found it very interesting, during the during COVID-19, the pandemic, lots of people started working from home, right? They didn't go to work, they just worked from home. And now, of course, the pandemic is, over, or mostly over, and people don't want it. Some people go back to work. Maybe they think it's great. They want to be back with their coworkers. But some people are like, no, I don't want to go back to work. I mean, I don't want to work at the office. I want to work from home. I'm already used to it. I'm 习惯了. So here I thought it's kind of funny that these guys are like, no, we don't want to go back to the office. So here it says, Amazon workers protesting return to office. Walkout. Yesterday's protest follows widespread job cuts and employee complaints that the tech giant has been slow to do more to commit to net zero emissions. Now, this term here is very much about 环保, right? We say zero emissions, net zero. Net means, what's another word for net? This is not the word. This word doesn't mean like 王子 or 绳子 or whatever. This means what? Net means what? What's a simple word for net? Total. You can say, what was your net income this year? What was your total income for this year? How much, recently we all had to go 报税, right? As soon as I got back from Liuqiu, Okinawa, I had to run down to the tax office to file my taxes before the deadline. So if you look at the tax form, it'll say net income or net whatever, means total. Okay. So here, net zero emissions, and emissions means what? When you emit, E-M-I-T, what does that mean? To emit means what? Release. Yes, very good. To release. So if you drive a car, your car is emitting exhaust, right? Or what is that? CO2. It's smoke. It's emitting smoke and exhaust and other things out the back. We emit, right? We emit air from when we breathe. We're emitting CO2. Yeah, I think. So emit, if we say zero emissions, it means that we're not, in total, altogether, we're not emitting anything. It's kind of a key word we hear all the time now when they talk about, protecting the environment. We say net zero emissions. Okay, let's say it together. Net zero emissions. Net zero emissions. Okay, so, and this is another word here. What is it? This is a 名词. What is a walkout? Does anyone know what this means? You can see it's two words, and what does that mean? If you can say there was a walkout at our company today, what does that mean? It's like a 抗议. And how do you 抗议? What do you do? Right, you walk out. You leave, right? You say, Swana, I'm not coming to work, or I'm going to leave the office. Actually, it's not. You do come to work, but then you walk out. You leave. So it's like a strike. What do we say? 罢工, right? 罢工, is that correct? So strike is S-T-R-I-K-E. You can say there was a strike today. So I could say that a walkout is a kind of strike. Of course, strike has many meanings, like strike means to hit. But here, a strike can be like 罢工. It's like to stop working, to walk off the job. Okay? So why don't we say together, walk out. Walk out. Strike. Strike. Okay, so let's see what this is about. Okay? It says, a group of Amazon.com Inc. workers upset about recent layoffs, a return to office mandate, and the company's environmental impact, plan to walk out yesterday at the company's Seattle headquarters. Okay, so of course their full name is Amazon.com Inc. Inc. of course means incorporated, but we usually just say Inc. Okay, means like what is that? 股份有限公司 or whatever. Upset. They were upset about what? Recent layoffs. Now, here's another good word. What is a layoff? I'll give you, it's a little bit different usually, often. If you fire somebody, that's it, right? They're not going to come back. Layoff could mean that, but it can also mean that you have to 暂时停. You don't come, you stop work for a while, and then maybe later you can come back. But it can also mean, it could be permanent or temporary. So it could be, forever, or it could be just short term or shorter term. So, but it's the idea that you don't come to work. The company says, bye-bye, see you, stay home, don't come. Okay, so why don't we say together, layoffs. layoffs. Okay, and that's a 名词. Okay, now you could say, I was laid off from my job. Okay, now notice here, we looked at the word earlier, walk out, right? And here we can say as a 动词, we are going to walk out. And now it's two words, right? And the same thing here, if we say I was laid off my job, then it becomes two words. Okay, of course, as a 过去式, it'd be LAID, laid off my job. My company laid me off, okay? Or my company is going to lay off many workers. And then it becomes two words. But here it's a 名词, so it becomes one word, layoff, okay? So the Amazon workers upset about recent layoffs, a return to office mandate. Now here we have these three words that are hyphenated, which means this becomes a 形容词, right? So return to office means come back to the office. You have to come back and work in the office. Mandate. Now this is a good word. I don't know if we've learned this before. What does mandate mean? Yeah, it's like a 命令, right? If you say the company has a new mandate that we all have to wear uniforms, or the school has a mandate that students all have to cut their hair, or something. It's like an order, So a mandate, okay. Now you can use this word as a 动词. You can say the company mandated, with an ed, mandated that we all need to wear uniforms. The school mandated that students must all cut their hair short. Okay, so this is a good word. Why don't we say together mandate? Mandate. And here it's a 名词, of course. Return to office mandate and the company's environmental impact. Okay, of course, this is their 环保的影响, right? So they plan to walk out yesterday at the company's Seattle headquarters. So this Amazon, this huge company, is based in Seattle. Okay, so let's read this. A group of Amazon.com Inc. workers. Okay, let's say it again. Amazon.com Inc. workers upset about recent layoffs, a return to office mandate, and the company's environmental impact. Let's say those last two words. Environmental impact. Plan to walk out yesterday at the company's Seattle headquarters. Yeah, that's their 总公司. Okay. The lunchtime protest came a week after Amazon's annual shareholders meeting and a month after a policy took effect requiring workers to return to the office 3 days per week. So I'm thinking, wow, well, that's not bad. 3 days a week, you have to be at the office. But I guess for some people, that's still too much, right? To be at the office 3 days a week. Okay, so here it says a lunchtime protest, right? Now, in about 30 minutes, we have lunchtime, right? So that's the time we eat lunch. Usually in Taiwan, I think it's usually 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Well, most places it's 12 to 1 lunchtime. Okay, so this is a protest. This 抗议 happened at lunchtime. The lunchtime protest came a week after Amazon's annual shareholders meeting. What is a shareholder? Perhaps some of you are shareholders, right? In companies. What does that mean? You buy their what? Stock. You buy their 股票, right? If you own their 股票, then you are a shareholder. You own a share, or you hold a share of that company. And a share means a piece, a part of that company. So a share is like a stock as well, right? For example, if you say, how many shares did you buy in Apple? You say, well, I bought 100 shares of Apple, or 100. So a share is like a measurement for stock. When we talk about stock, we don't say how many stocks did you buy. I mean, how many shares did you buy in Apple or Taijidian or whatever, So a shareholder is someone who holds stock in that company. So why don't we say together, shareholders. shareholders. And so most big companies, I think all big companies, have an annual, every year, once a year, 年度的 shareholders meeting. Okay, they had a shareholders meeting, and a month, this protest comes a month after a policy, a new policy, like of course here it's not 政府, it's a company, so it's a 公司的 policy, took effect, it went into effect, requiring workers to return to the office. Okay, they have to come back. Any questions about that? Okay, so let's read this. The lunchtime protest came a week after Amazon's annual shareholders meeting. Shareholders meeting. And a month after, a policy took effect requiring workers to return to the office 3 days per week. Okay. We respect our employees' rights to express their opinions, the company said in a statement. Okay, so of course you can say we respect the right to express their opinions. If you 抗议 or you protest or you walk off or you complain, of course you are expressing 表现 your opinions, right? So they're saying, well, we respect them. They can do that. They have that 权利. Okay, so let's read this together. We respect our employees' rights to express their opinions, the company said in a statement. Okay, and that's a photo caption. It says here, as of Tuesday night, more than 1,800 employees had pledged to walk out around the world, with about 870 in Seattle, said Amazon Employees for Climate Justice, a climate change advocacy group founded by Amazon workers. Okay, so when we say as of Tuesday night, that means up until Tuesday night. 到礼拜二晚上, up until. So as of Tuesday night, over or more than 1,800 employees have pledged. What does pledge mean? Promise. It's like to promise, right? You say, I pledge, I promise I will do this. So they promise or pledge to walk out around the world. So this is not just in Seattle. This is all over the place. With about 870 in Seattle. Said Amazon Employees for Climate Justice. Okay, so this is, climate is like 气候, right? Justice, you know what justice is. So this is a climate change advocacy group. Now, I think we've learned this word before, but if you are advocating, we say to advocate, what does that mean? Right, you fight for something, you promote something, you're working towards something, okay? So, for example, you can say he is advocating animal protection or animal rights, 动物权利 or whatever, or he is advocating human rights, 人权, or he is advocating. So, if you promote something, you're working for something, you're fighting for something, it means you're advocating something. You could say, I'm advocating a new law, 新的一个法律, right, that would change something. Okay, so we can work for many things, and if we say to advocate, okay, that is here as a 动词, but we can also use this word as a 名词 to describe the person that is doing this, and then we call them an advocate. An advocate. So you notice there's a small difference in pronunciation here with this word 动词. The last A has a long A sound, to advocate. But then if you say a person, you say he is an advocate. That A sound is different now. It's advocate, instead of Kate. Does everybody, can you hear that difference? Okay. You can say, I am a human rights advocate. Okay, I am. This is me. And then we say advocate. But here it's to advocate. advocate with a long A. Anyhow, it's a small difference. So here, this is an advocacy group. This group advocates. It becomes a 形容词, advocacy group. Okay, does everybody understand that? Okay, obviously this group is advocating climate change. They think we need to change our climate, or maybe we're fighting against climate change. I don't know. People say our climate change is not good, so I guess we're fighting against climate change. Anyhow. Okay, so any questions on this? Okay, so let's read this together. As of Tuesday night, more than 1,800 employees had pledged to walk out around the world, with about 870 in Seattle. Seattle, said Amazon employees for climate justice. A climate change advocacy group founded by Amazon workers. Okay, that's actually we didn't actually say this together. So as a 动词, let's say it together. To advocate. To advocate. Okay, and now we're going to say it for the person. He is an advocate. He is an advocate. Yeah, so that's the small difference there. Okay. It says, while some plan to gather at the Amazon Spheres, a 4-story structure in downtown Seattle that from the outside looks like 3 connected glass orbs, others were to participate remotely. Okay, now there's some funny words here. What is a sphere? Think it's a shape. A ball. It's like a ball shape. Okay, we say spherical. So if we want to turn that into a 形容词, we say RICAL, spherical. So SPHERICAL, spherical. You can say something is spherical, it means it's shaped like a ball. Like the earth, right? Our 地球 is spherical in shape. In fact, almost all planets, I think, are spherical. Okay, so spheres this is the name, of course, this is a capital S, so this is the name of a building, a 4-story building structure in downtown Seattle that from the outside, when you're standing outside, when you look at from the outside, 外表, looks like 3 connected glass orbs. Now, does anyone know what an orb is? It's like a ball. So these words actually are very similar, an orb and a ball. But when we talk about planets like, Earth, like we use this word more. An orb is often like a smaller ball. And often when I think of an orb, for some reason, I think of glass, like a glass orb, a glass ball. It's like round, but it's like a glass usually. For some reason, I don't know why I think of that. And often when I think of an orb, I often think of it's like transparent. You can see through it. Okay. I don't know if it has to be that way always, but that's what comes into my mind. A glass ball, an orb. Okay. So why don't we say it together? Orb. Orb. So this building looks like 3 glass balls that are connected to each other. That's what it looks like. I haven't seen this, but I'm sure it's a landmark. So people are going to gather at this building to protest, but others will participate remotely. And what does remotely mean? Means you're not there, right? You're somewhere else. So, well, yeah, probably far away. So like if we say I like to work remotely, what does that mean? It means I don't go to the office. I work from home or I work from outside. Like, when I went to Okinawa last week, I still had some work I needed to do for COMPASS magazine. So I brought my laptop computer, my 笔记电脑, and I worked remotely to do my work from Okinawa. So I was working in Okinawa for my work here. That's what we call remote work. Okay. So here, of course, if someone lives in a remote island, what does that mean? It means it's far, far away. A remote island means a kind of an isolated, far away island. But if you work remotely, it just means you work outside the office, somewhere else. So here they're going to join this Kangyi, but they're going to do it from outside. They're not going to go there. They're going to be, maybe they're in another country, but they're going to join that. So how do we work remotely? Often we use like technology, right? We can use Zoom, or we can use something to have a remote meeting, right? We can say, I met with him remotely or virtually, even though we're not face to face. He's there, I'm here, but we can work together remotely. Okay. Everybody understand that? Okay. Why don't we say together remotely? Remotely. There's an item that I'm sure you use every day at home. Remote control, right? It's for your TV, right? You have that thing and you push it. And it's funny, it's very funny. If your remote control breaks, it's almost like the TV is broken. You don't know what to do anymore. I don't know if you remember. I'm older like some of you, but I remember actually turning the TV with my hand, right, pushing the buttons. But of course now everybody uses a remote control. They use that for their TV or stereo or whatever. Okay, so let's read this together. While some plan to gather at the Amazon spheres, a 4-story structure in downtown Seattle, that from the outside looks like 3 connected glass orbs. Glass orbs. Others were to participate remotely. Participate remotely. I was just thinking, I think sometimes you could use the word orb sometimes even describe maybe someone's eyeball. You could say, I guess you could say that. I don't know if that's common, but anyhow, because your eyeball is round, right? And it's kind of like a glass ball, kind of. Okay. So it says here, Brad Glazer, an Amazon spokesman, said there has been a good energy on the company's South Lake Union campus and at its other urban centers since more employees return to the office. However, more than 20,000 workers signed a petition urging Amazon to reconsider the return to office mandate. Okay, what is a petition? Right, I don't know, maybe have you ever signed a petition? Right, somebody says, we want the government to pass a new law. So if you would sign your name here, then we will, if we can get 20,000 names, then the government will listen to us. You know what I'm talking about, right? If you want to change something, often they will have people sign their name on this document. Yeah. So we call that a petition. Now, a petition can also be a 动词. You can say, we petitioned the government to pass the new law, or they petitioned the president to change this. Okay? So why don't we say together, petition. Petition. Right. I'm sure, I know I have people come up to you and they say, are you willing to sign this petition? And you can say, well, yeah, great, or no, I don't want to. Okay, so more than 20,000 workers signed a petition that urging Amazon to reconsider this new rule to return to the office, this mandate. Now here it says, he says there's been a good energy. I think another way to say this, where you could say there's been a positive energy, 肯定的 energy. If there's a good feeling among people, we say, wow, there's a really good or positive energy here with our people. Everyone feels very positive or happy. Okay, so he says there's been a good energy on the company's South Lake Union. This is a name of a campus. Okay, now it's interesting that, campus we used to only use for schools before. we can say the Donghai University campus. But I noticed that for big companies, especially technology companies, they often have a very large area, like Apple or Google or Amazon, and they call that a campus. It's almost like a university. There's a very large area with many buildings. Okay, so we call that a campus. Why don't we say together, campus, campus, okay, and at its other urban centers since more employees came back to the office. So he's saying everything's pretty good. Okay, so let's read this together. Brad Glazer, an Amazon spokesperson, said there has been a good energy on the company's South Lake Union campus. And at its other urban centers since more employees returned to the office. However, more than 20,000 workers signed a petition urging Amazon to reconsider the return to office mandate. Right. Now, of course, urban here means we could say downtown, right? Downtown, it's somewhere in the city. Okay, so it says here, as it pertains to the specific topics this group of employees is raising, we've explained our thinking in different forums over the past few months and will continue to do so, Glasser said in a statement. So this is the company, actually this should be a period here. The company is responding to this. So it says here, as it pertains to the specific topics this group of employees is raising. This is an interesting word. We often say pertaining to something or as it pertains to. What does pertain mean? Right. Related to. Okay, so another way to say this, you could say as related to or as in regards to. Okay, actually that's a word I would often use. I could say, I would say in regards to. Okay, so if you're referring specifically to something, you could say in regards to your comments, I want to say this, or in regards to his letter, I'm going to do this. Okay, it means in relationship to that. So here we could say as it pertains to or in regards to the specific topic. So pertaining to means related to. Okay, so you can say the government issued a new law pertaining to all crosswalks, or recently the government has new restrictions or requirements for crossing the road, for cars. So you could say pertaining that there's a new law pertaining to crosswalks on the road, okay, or road crossings. Okay, so pertaining to. There's a new law pertaining to driving too fast or drunk driving. Okay, it means related to or in regards to. So does everybody understand that? So this word pertains or pertains to, as it pertains to or pertaining to is a quite fairly common word. Let's read it. Let's say it together. Pertains to. As it pertains to. Let's read that too. In regards to. In regards to. Okay, so you're saying in regards to, or as it pertains to specific subjects or topics this group of employees is raising. Of course, they're concerned about certain things. We've explained our thinking in different forums over the past few months. Now, we've said before, a forum is a place where we do what? What do we do in a forum? We discuss. We exchange ideas. Usually it's a meeting, a gathering. Now, a forum could be a place. It could be an actual place where you sit down and meet, but it's usually a place, it's a discussion, it's a meeting. a discussion meeting, I guess. So we've explained the way we think, Amazon is thinking, in different forms over the past few months, and we will keep doing this. Okay, let's say it together. Forums. Forums. Okay. Okay, so let's read this. As it pertains to the specific topics this group of employees is raising, we've explained our thinking in different forums over the past few months, and will continue to do so, Glasser said in a statement. Okay. Okay, let's just read one or two more paragraphs, and then I think we'll be done today. It says, in a February memo, Amazon CEO Andy Jassy said the company made its decision to return corporate employees to the office at least 3 days a week after observing what worked during the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, what is a memo? M-E-M-O. What? This word here. Yeah, very good. Actually, memorandum. So memorandum. I think I'm spelling this correctly. Okay, a memorandum. It's like a note. It's like an official note. Okay, but it doesn't always have to be official, right? If you say the company sent a memo to all its employees saying that they should, be on time for work, or it's like a note, it's like a reminder, it's like a notice. Okay, so we call that a memorandum, or for short, a memo. Sometimes we joke about this, right? I'll tell you one of the common jokes. I see this. Sometimes I show up at a meeting, and my friends and I are wearing the exact same colors. He's wearing blue pants and green shirt, and then maybe someone else is wearing blue pants and green shirt. And then one of my other friends says, "Wow, you guys are all dressed the same." And I say, "Didn't you get the memo?" What does that mean? I'm making a joke, right? I mean, say, didn't you hear that we're supposed to dress this way? So sometimes when somebody sees something, you're like, and you think you want to make fun of them, you say, "You didn't see the memo? You didn't get the memo?" Okay. So anyhow, let's read this long word together over here. Memorandum. Memorandum. Memo. Memo. Okay. Now, sometimes two governments or two companies will say they will sign something called an MOU, which stands for Memorandum of Understanding. What that means is it's not a full 合约 or contract. It means we agree to, we kind of have an agreement that we're going to try to do something, but it's not as strong as, maybe it's something we're going to do in the future. We hope to do this in the future. So we call it an MOU. It's like an agreement to work towards something or do something. But for some reason, an MOU is not always as strong as a contract. A contract is 100%. Yes, no, we will not. But an MOU is more like we want to do this. We are working towards this, okay? So we call it a memorandum of understanding. Often governments and companies will use that word, MOU, okay? Okay, so in the February memo, I'm sure he sent this to everybody, the CEO, the Zhixingjiang, said the company made its decision to return corporate employees to the office, to bring them back to the office at least 3 days a week after observing what worked during the COVID-19. So we say what worked, it means what worked well, right? What worked? Or we could say what didn't work, okay? What worked during the pandemic, okay? What functioned well and what did not function well? What worked? Okay. Any questions about that? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No. MOU is very official. It's like two two companies or two governments signing a contract. Not a contract, but an agreement. Okay. But if we say two people have a chemistry, that's different. That's just emotional. Whereas MOUs are used for business. Yeah, but this is different. This is like a government or contract. It's not like a, yeah. I hope, in fact, it would be kind of funny if you had a relationship and you signed an MOU with somebody. You're like, we agree to, I don't know. That would be kind of, yeah. But anyhow, yeah, we don't use this word for people so much. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so let's read this together. In a February memo, Amazon CEO Andy Jassy said the company made its decision to return corporate employees to the office at least 3 days a week after observing what worked during the COVID-19 pandemic. Right. Okay. Okay, well, I think that's all we have time for today, but any final questions about this? I think most Taiwanese are back at work. I don't think people are working remotely anymore. But yeah, some people, I guess, still are used to that. 习惯了, yeah. Okay, good. Well, that's all we have time for. So it looks like the sun has come out, so you can go out and enjoy some sunshine, hot weather. Yeah. Okay, we'll see you next time. Thank you.